Hey everybody and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to crochet these super cute little rainbows and how to string them together to make your own little pastel rainbow garland. If you love all things crochet and are passionate about the craft, then you have definitely come to the right place. Hit that subscribe button and the bell notification so you don't miss out on any of my future crochet videos. Now for this little garland, I have strung it together using pom-pom yarn, which is of course entirely optional. You don't need to use pom-pom yarn. You can use any yarn you like. I do have a video on how to make little chains for stringing things up for a garland, which I've linked to in the description box below if you didn't want to go down this sort of pom-pom yarn route. Now these little clouds, they are not my design. This little pattern is available freely online and I have linked to it in the description box below. You can do a cloud with 6 little puffs like this one, or there is a pattern for if you just wanted 5. All the yarn shades, all the materials, everything you need to know is all linked to in the description box below. So don't forget to click show more to expand that box where you'll find everything down there. So all you're going to need is 7 shades of yarn, any color, any brand, with a hook size appropriate to that yarn. All right, let's begin and I can show you how you crochet these super cute little rainbows, and then I will take a moment to show you how I strung mine so that they hang nice and flat. Obviously you can't see with that top-down view, but they hang nicely from the top. All right, let's begin. So once you've gathered up all your yarn shades and you have your crochet hook, have some scissors handy because you're going to need these, and we're going to be starting with your darkest color at the bottom here. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my purple yarn. So with your starting color yarn, you want to leave a long tail because we're going to need it for a bit of sewing right at the very end. So whichever color you're starting with, leave yourself a decent length of yarn to act as a sewing tail. Then you want to go ahead and pop a slip knot on your hook. So this is my working yarn here, and you can see I've left a nice long tail to start. Then we're going to go ahead and chain 12. Once you have your 12 chains, we're going to join them into a loop with a slip stitch into that very first chain you did right here by the slip knot. So just pop your hook through that chain, yarn over and pull through all the loops on your hook. Then chain 1, which does not count as a stitch, and we're now going to work into this ring that we've just created, but you do not want to crochet over your long tail, so keep that one out of the way. All right, so for the first row, keeping that tail out of the way, you're going to be working with half double crochet stitches, and we're going to want 18 in total into this loop here. So a half double is just yarn over, go into the space or the stitch, whichever row you're on, bring the yarn back through. You'll have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. That is a half double crochet. So we want 18 in total. I've done 1, so I'm going to go ahead and do 17 more. So you should have your tail hanging free. You haven't crocheted over it. And you should have 18 half double stitches into your ring. Just take a moment to check your stitch count. Okay, phew. I was worried I miscounted then. So for the second row, we are going to immediately bring in our next color. So to do that, we're going to join with a slip stitch to that first stitch of the row, but we're not going to complete it. So just pop your hook underneath that as if you were going to slip stitch, but instead Bring in the next colour and draw through with that colour. This is how we're going to change colour at the end of every row. Now take a minute to just make sure you're not cutting your tail of the purple. This is the working yarn. Just going to snip it off there. That's it, I'm done with the purple now. And I'm just going to lightly tie these two ends together. I'm just going to tie them like so, just in a really loose knot. You don't need to worry too much. Then you have your new colour joined to that very first stitch here, ready to begin the next row. Now what I've been doing is I've been taking these two short tails. It's a bit fiddly, so hopefully you can see what I'm doing. I've been taking these two short tails. This is my working yarn here. I've been lying them along the back of my stitches and I've been crocheting over them as I go, which means you have no tails to weave in, but you're just securing everything down. That is completely optional. I'm going to go ahead and do it. But for the row 2, we're going to chain 1, which does not count as a stitch, and I'm going to work over these tail ends of my blue and my purple and place a half double crochet into that stitch where you just slip stitched. Then in the next stitch, I'm going to do an increase, which is 2 half double stitches, half double crochet stitches into the same place. So I've got 2 half doubles in that one stitch. Continue working around in this fashion. 1 half double in one stitch, then increase into the next. Keep doing that all the way around and I shall meet you here in just a moment. In that very last stitch, you should be ending on an increase, which is 2 half doubles to the same stitch. Then we're going to do exactly what we did before. We're going to slip stitch to join to this very first stitch of the row, but we're also going to change colour at the same time. So just like before, pop your hook under that stitch and yarn over, draw through with your new colour. Trim off the old. Knot them. You don't have to, but you can if you want to for a bit of extra security. Pull it tight. Then you can lay these tails and crochet over them. If it gets too annoying having lots of tails sticking up, you can just go ahead and trim them when you're done. So that's how we're going to change colour on every single row. Then grab those two short tails and you can crochet over them. So to start row 3, chain 1, which does not count as a stitch, and pop a half double crochet into that exact same place where you just joined. Then half double crochet in the next, increase in the stitch after that. Half double crochet into the next 2 stitches, then increase. Keep doing this all the way around. Half double crochet, increase. All the way around. Half double, increase. And I'll meet you back here in just a moment. Once you reach the end of the row, you'll always be ending on an increase. We're going to slip stitch to join to this very first stitch of the row, and we're going to change colour. Chain 1 and pop a half double crochet into that same stitch, then half double crochet in the next 2 stitches. Increase in the next. Half double crochet in the next 3 stitches. Increase in the next, and repeat that all the way round. 3 half double crochet, increase. Once you reach the end of the row, again slip stitch to that very first stitch of the row and change colour at the same time. Chain 1, half double crochet in that same stitch, then half double crochet in the next 3 stitches. Increase in the next. Then half double crochet in the next 4 stitches. Increase in the next. So you're going to repeat this all the way around. 4 half double crochet followed by an increase. At the end of the round, again, slip stitch to that very first stitch of the round and change to your next colour. Chain 1, half double crochet in that same stitch where you just slip stitched, then half double crochet in the next 4 stitches. Increase in the next. And we're going to continue this all the way around. Half double crochet in 5 stitches, increase in the next. So keep going all the way round and I will meet you back over here. All right, to end this round, just as before, slip stitch to that very first half double crochet of the round and change colour at the same time. And this is where we're going to start to form the rainbow on this round. Okay, so you've joined your final colour, and go ahead and chain one just to give yourself a bit of slack. Now you will have this sort of donut, and you want to bring your long tail that's been bothering you this entire time to the outside. So you've got your chain one over here, and then fold your rainbow in half. So you want the right side of your stitches to be showing. That's what the inside looks like. You want the correct side facing out. And have this tail, just so you don't have to go fishing for it in a little bit. So once you've sort of folded your rainbow in half, get these little tails in from where we knotted. Actually, if you want to knot this, double knot this last one, rather than just a single knot, you can. We will, of course, be crocheting over it just as we have, but it's a bit more tricky because it sort of disappears into the rainbow itself. So fold it along this line where you have attached. And as you fold it, you'll have this, see if I can show you, this stitch here that you just slip stitch to, and you'll have the V's of your stitches either side where they're lining up here and here. And this is where we're going to be putting our first set of stitches into this and this stitch. I appreciate it's quite tricky to see on this pastel yarn, but hopefully you'll see when we get going. You want to place 2 half double crochets into this very first bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my hook underneath this first stitch here, and then this stitch at the back. So you're catching both those stitches, yarn over, pull through, then complete your first half double crochet, and we want another one in that exact same place. So I'm working underneath the stitches to sandwich it close. So we've got 2 half double crochets in that first set, closing it up. Now you're going to place a half double crochet in each set of these 2 sides, closing it together. So pick up that first stitch, then pick up that second stitch, do your half double crochet, so you're closing it together. Work a half double crochet into each pair of stitches, and I will meet you back over here because we finish off slightly differently. So meet me when you've still got a couple of stitches left for the closing. So I'm finishing up my half double crochets, closing up this whole little sort of pasty shape. And when you get to this last set of stitches, you'll have a couple that are clearly lined up. Then you've got sort of one that's sort of folded over. So work into the ones where you can clearly see where you're going. And for this very last stage, we're going to work in here. Now, it's not the easiest stitch to get into. This is where you can do a little bit of just fudge it. And in here, we want at least 2 half doubles. Now, I will do 2 half doubles, and I'll show you why I say at least. So I'm just going to sort of work here-ish. It's almost working around the post of that last stitch. Don't worry too much. Just shove your hook in and pop 2 half doubles into the same place. Now, ish, because when you bring it back over, make sure you're happy that it is all lining up and it's got a reasonably flat bottom. If it hasn't, and you find that it's still quite pulling up over here, feel free to put one more half double crochet in there, which will bring the whole thing neatly round. So this is a little bit of a do it by eye, do what works for you at the end here. There's no real right or wrong. We're pretty much done. It's just aesthetics at this point. But when you are happy, I'm happy just having 2, chain 1, and you want to cut a reasonable tail here. Then pull that yarn through and pull that chain 1 tight. Then grab your large eye needle and we're just going to weave in this end. Now that chain 1 is pretty tight, and this is where you can see why I have chipped nail on this thumbnail, because of all this weaving in. All you want to do, that's going to hold pretty well, is just come down into the body of that last stitch you just did. Just sort of poke it out through like that. Then you can run it under just a couple of stitches. You don't need to be too concerned. Just run it under a couple. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. I'm running my needle like so. Then you can sort of open up the center, pop it down through a stitch, and my needle is now poking my finger on the inside. I'm just going to go ahead and push it out like that. So I'm not catching any stitches. I'm just making it disappear into the inside of this rainbow. Then you can trim that excess end. You can see I've got a few other ends tucked in there. That is absolutely fine. And then the last thing to do is we're going to sew up the bottom. So with your tail that you left from that very first colour, go ahead and thread that one up too. And what we're going to do is we're going to sew this shut just with just a basic in and out kind of a stitch. So I'm just going in one side, coming out the other. Turn it that way around, it's a bit easier for me to work on. And then I'm just going to go in that stitch hole, top of that stitch there, come out on the corresponding one on the other side. And do that all the way along. So I'm just going in there, coming out on that side. So once you've reached the end, you should still have enough yarn left. Do one more, so just pop it in and around to the back here. I'm just going to hook it under a stitch for a second. Make sure that turns around. Then I'm going to weave this end in underneath the stitches of this last row here, just to secure it all. This is where you can go over and you can be a bit neater than I have. You can see you're just closing it off. Then when you're happy and it is all woven in correctly, snip that end and I will show you how we pop it onto the pom-pom yarn garland itself. All right, so I've trimmed all my ends and I want the front of my rainbow to be the right side facing you, so the side where we were just crocheting, rather than the back, because it sort of curls away. I don't know if you can pick that up, but I want this to be the front of my rainbow. Now I've been using tails everywhere, pom-pom yarn to thread mine, purely because I figured fluffy clouds, it looked like sky, it's actually adorable and gives a little bit of extra detail without me having to actually crochet anything, which is always a bonus. Now for these clouds, what I've been doing is I've been doing a rainbow, one pom-pom, then a cloud, one pom-pom, rainbow as I go along. Now for the clouds, as I mentioned in the intro, I've left the link to the crochet pattern for these below. It's not mine, but all I have done is I've come through the back, the top of one of these, and then gone in the sort of from the front to back for the next section. So that's how I've done that. Where's my needle? How have I lost my needle? Ah, there it is. So I came in from the back and went back in that way to thread on the clouds. Now for the rainbow, these pom-poms, you don't think they're going to get through your stitches. They will. You just have to have a little bit of what's the worst that can happen type spirit about you. They'll feel like they can't get through, but I promise they can. These little pom-poms squish down very, very small. Oh, I'm doing that off shot. They squish down very small and they're incredibly smooth. So they will go through your stitches. So you want to work out where the top of your rainbow is. So it's about here. And you want to leave 3 or 4 stitches clear, depending on the width of your pom-pom. Now for me, that meant leaving 3 stitches clear so that the pom-pom sat nicely. For you, it may be less, maybe more. It all depends what yarn you're using. But I know that these 3 stitches here are roughly the top. Actually, I'd say probably these 3. These are my top 3 stitches. So I'm going to come from behind and come under the stitch next to these 3 I want to leave clear. Now this pom-pom yarn is not going to want to come through that stitch. You just got to sort of force it gently, but pull it through. Then keep pulling through these pom-poms until you get to whichever section it is. I'm leaving 1 pom-pom in between, so I've got to get all these pulled through. You have to be a little bit firm. It will stretch your stitch, but hopefully you can take more time and more care than I am here. So that's my 1 pom-pom between the clouds. Then pop that back on your needle. Count your 3 stitches or however many it is that you want to leave free. Then go in from the front to the back. And repeat that same process of pulling these pom-poms through that stitch. And there you have it. See, it hangs really nicely. You got that adorable little fluffy pom-pom at the top. And that is your little rainbow garland. Nearly complete, because you're going to need a lot more than 1 rainbow. But that means that this video is complete, if nothing else. So if you have any questions, please feel free to shout in the comment section down below. I always do my best to try and get to every single one of you. Everything you need is in the description box. So if you want to know what colors I've used, where I got my materials, anything like that, it's probably already there. So go ahead and show more so you can find all the information down there already. So I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I really hope that you'll give it a go. They do start to work up very quickly, and once you get into the rhythm of it, one of these little rainbows takes me about 15, maybe 20 minutes, absolute tops to do. So you can sort of sit down and make a fair few of an evening, and then before you know it, you've got this amazing, cute little garland. So until next time, happy crocheting!